We're here to talk about the PWTAG 2025 conference and a few updates, industry updates that have come from that conference, just to keep people informed of what the major topics of the day were, perhaps what's coming down the pipeline for the industry in 2026, because I think next year we know that there's a new PWTAG, what they call the Blue Book, coming out.
The magnificent Blue Book?
Yes, I think that's due sort of November next year. So they'll look at currently revising the standards and things like that and what they're going to include in it. So I just picked out a few topics from that conference, which was quite well attended. I think there was about 130 people there, which for a conference isn't a bad number. But obviously there are thousands of people in our industry, so it's always good to try and share the knowledge. But just off the mark, just to say that the papers from the conference are now published on the PWTAG website. So if everybody wants to see all of the presentations that were done on that day, they can now get access to those. But the first one I wanted to cover was a presentation that Ian Nix gave, which was about alkalinity and its effects on coagulation and flocculation. Now, the reason for this paper really is that, cryptosporidium is still quite a big concern, the pool industry, and there are still lots of cases of it every year. And your biggest defence against cryptosporidium is having efficient filtration, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the only way to do that really is to make sure your flocculation process, coagulation, flocculation steps in your system are working effectively. So he was just highlighting the fact that alkalinity really is the underpinning factor in making sure that your flocculation process is working properly.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that we need some base alkalinity in the pool to, number one, really to steady the pH, stop the pH from moving around, because we know that flocculants only work really well between about 7 and 7.4. And the one thing that's going to keep that pH stable is having sufficient alkalinity. So basically the typical range advised by PWTAG is 80 to 200 milligrams of alkalinity. And that's what we really need to achieve to make sure that the coagulation process works. So if you've got a low alkalinity, it means there's insufficient buffering capacity really for the PAC to react properly. So then you get poor or no coagulation and flocculation going on. You get unstable pH when the chlorine and acids are added to the pool. And then you've got a greater risk of cryptosporidium passing through your filter should you get some of that unfortunate creature in your pool.
Yeah.
And we know from previous research done by PWTAG that probably something like 11% of pools in the UK have cryptosporidium in them at any time.
Yeah.
It's found in the filters, isn't it? They've done filter inspections and things like that and found that it's sort of at least 1 in 10 pools.
Yeah.
Have got crypto in their filters at any one time, so something to be aware of, definitely.
No, it's very important. I don't know. I don't know whether he didn't touch on the medium rate, high rate filter situation as well, did he? In terms of flocculation, or
I think it was mentioned just to say that high rate filters are not good at filtering out. They're not. The efficiency of them isn't very good at all. But still, it's probably still better to use some flocculation rather than none.
It's just harder to establish that chemical glue, isn't it? With the high rate filters and what have you. Yeah.
I think the other message he gave was really that, perhaps we should consider dosing, for pools that need it, we should consider dosing sodium bicarbonate, which raises alkalinity, obviously.
Yeah.
We should consider dosing that rather than on a slug dose after a backwash, maybe dosing it over a period of days, or, having a continuous dose rate, background dose rate, to make sure that
it's all about creating the buffer, isn't it? That's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to put the stuff into the water so it can combat what's coming its way, really.
Yeah, and keeping it there, because I suppose if you've got constant dilution of the pool going on and you're in a soft water area, then you might be losing a little bit of alkalinity level throughout the week.
Yeah.
So I think he was suggesting in situations like that where perhaps you do battle to keep your alkalinity up, then doing it on on a more continuous dose rate would be better. So maybe we start installing, bicarbonate dosing stations. That's one thing. But yeah, so the overall message is, keep your alkalinity up, keep it above 80 ppm, and that will allow your coagulant to disperse properly, and it will allow the flocculation process to occur. So,
yeah. It's an interesting, it's a simple topic, but an interesting one. And it's one that, as tutors, we've seen over the years that, a lot of our operators out there, that they're not really aware of the importance of this alkalinity level.
No, that's right. They just think, we've got a PAC system.
Yeah.
We put it in, our pH is roughly right, and that's it. But it's a bit of a wing and a prayer.
Yeah,
unless the alkalinity is there, it's not going to act fast enough.
No.
So you end up with a filter, perhaps a filter bed full of inactivated PAC rather than flocks.
Yeah.
And interesting one. Moving on. Yeah, so the next one, Martyn, one of your favourite topics, I think, temporary pools and the host's obligations. So this was a paper by Mike Schuff, who is the vice chair of the Pool Water Treatment Advisory Group. And he was really highlighting the fact that a lot of these pop-up pools, are being installed. They're not going to go away, I don't think. They do seem to be quite a popular option, but it's really important for landlords to understand their responsibilities when they are installing or thinking of installing what we call a temporary pool.
Yeah.
So
mainly in education sites, aren't they?
Yeah, that's it. A lot of them are going into schools.
The responsibility to the head teacher, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it is a lot of legal and health and safety. Yeah, and also he highlighted the fact that there are risk assessments to be done, policies to be made for usage policies, health and safety policies. Your insurance company should be on board with it. You should be seeking advice from your insurance company as well.
Yeah.
And so he was just saying, really, that a lot, in many cases, schools are obviously run by headmasters and bursars and people like that who may not have the experience in this area of the industry. That they may not be aware of the industry guidelines, and they are, they're going out buying a pool or getting a company to install a pool, and that's it. A pool is a pool. Yeah. They don't understand the difference.
Well, yeah. I think the interesting thing to mention here is that obviously you and I attended the recent STA conference as well. I was on a panel with representatives from PWTAG and Sparta, etc., etc. And there obviously was a manufacturer's presence at this seminar as well. And I think it does need to be highlighted and addressed that the manufacturers are trying. They're trying to get some form of standards drawn up. They are working with PWTAG. And in relation to the Blue Book, as you said, whether they have to stick to whatever guidance is in there at the present moment in time, or whether with working with PWTAG, they can create their own kind of section in terms of these. And they like to really call them temporary pools, not pop-up pools. I think the terminology is key, but a positive from it is that they've set up their own association now, which is an independent association working with PWTAG to try and get these standards drawn up, and that's a really good positive. So I think in terms of the suppliers out there and what have you, they have been knocked a bit, and there's a lot of pool people that are knocking it. But just from their perspective, there's always two sides to a coin, and they are doing their best, but there still are concerns in terms of getting to those standards. We're in particular, our reference is like to the circulation rates, isn't it, and things like that, and the turnover periods and the amount of inlets and outlets and all that kind of stuff on these pools. But it's we're talking now about the documentation side of it, isn't it? And the people like the head teachers protecting themselves with these things coming in. But it's just a balanced approach, really, and probably a bit more of a balanced approach in terms of the fact that they are trying. We're yet to see what those standards will be, but they are working. The manufacturer suppliers are working behind the scenes to try and get somewhere, and I encourage that. But there's still a lot of work to do, and still some concerns, which everybody takes that on board. at the end of the day, this is all about making them safe environments, because we're talking about young kids, we're talking about teachers in there, and it's the safety of all these people and the protection of the people like the head teachers and the bursars as well. And that's got to be right. It's just got to be right.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the PWTAG book, you know, although it contains all this guidance for commercial pools, if you're somebody like a headmaster or a bursar and you're diving in there to try and find some advice about temporary pools, it's really difficult to go and pick out all these essential areas that they need to cover. Yeah. So I think perhaps when they revise the book, it does sound like, you know, they may make a chapter for it. Perhaps
hopefully
make it easier to find.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle at the end of the day. It's we're teaching a life skill here, and you know, as far as the government is concerned, you know, there's not enough input, there's not enough funding. You know, swimming is a life skill at the end of the day, and there aren't the facilities out there to cater for the people that want to swim. And you can see where the gap in the market is. There are people out there that are trying to fill that gap, but it's got to be done in a safe manner. It's just, you know, safety is actually key. And, you know, it might sound a bit anal to some of the people out there, but it's key at the end of the day. You know, we don't want to be risking lives by teaching a life skill.
That's right. Yeah, we don't want to be making people ill.
No, correct.
No.
So anyway, so that's where I'm at with it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like PWTAG are drawing up basically a checklist for landlords, so that will explain to them, you know, what pre-contract stuff should look like, documentation, use of the pool, water quality, chemical safety, accident and incident management, and the end of the contract. What do you do, you know, to wind up that provision of the pool? Yeah. So there's quite a lot that needs to be considered, really. So that will be on the PWTAG website soon, we're told. Yeah. So I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I think the other thing, just to finish off on that, we talked about inlets and outlets and our concerns, circulation, turnovers and whatever, and we've got the major issue of suction entrapment and entanglement as well.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, there's quite.
And these are just the practical things. These aren't, to a degree, not the things that you're talking about now in terms of documentation and all that. This is in terms of, you know, the manufacturers and suppliers working with PWTAG to get these standards and the specs of these pools, you know, finalised to the point where, you know, they are safe to go into.
Yeah. Very good. Let's, okay, we'll have a look at the next item.
Yeah.
So the next presentation was James Coombs from Devon Consulting Engineers. And he was talking about energy efficient pool water treatment design and why it matters. And we know that many existing pools in the UK consume around about 60 to 65 watts per cubic metre of turnover of the pool. So this is the energy that's used just to circulate the water, if you like, circulate and filter the water. And, you know, even in the UK, there are many pools above that level as well. And he was talking about the fact that if we want to aim for energy efficiency and try and perhaps, you know, aim for a target like the Passive House standard sets, which is 25 to 40 watts per cubic metre of circulation, then, you know, the UK market has got some way to go.
It's got a long way to go.
Got some way to go. So, you know, he gave a couple of examples. He said for a typical 6-lane pool, a circulating pump with an energy consumption of 65 watts per cubic metre could cost about £25,000 a year to operate that pump. Improving that to 40 watts could halve that, and going even lower obviously saves a lot more. So, you know, just for a pump running, that's quite a lot of energy for a typical 6-lane pool.
Yeah.
And
especially on the basis that they're running 24/7, most of them as well. And many of them haven't got inverters on them or things like that. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly that. And basically he's saying, why have we got systems that are efficient now? And it's often because in many, you know, public pool projects, the place gets designed. Often people like consulting engineers like Devon are brought in fairly late in the design, or too late really in the design, and then they go through what they call these value engineering steps, which is trying to get the cost down, you know, value engineering. It's
Can't
really
beat
quite
it.
a
You can't
false
beat
terminology.
it. You can't beat it.
Yeah, it means how much cost can we strip out?
Yeah.
How much, so it strips out sustainability to cut capex, and now that's the wrong way. We know it's the wrong way.
You're cutting your nose off to spite your face.
Yeah, yeah. So you're saying it really needs to be thought about early on. You need to get specialists in and get the right advice on your pool design and the plant room design and location early on.
Yeah.
And if not, you end up with long, awkward pipe runs, lots of valves in the system. You lose a lot of head loss. Yeah, yeah. So the
90-degree angles, the whole shebang.
that's it. Yeah. All those things we want to optimize. We really want to get the pool and the plant close together.
Yeah.
The balance tank close together so that pipe runs are minimal. And like you say, putting long radius bends in instead of elbows. Correct, and things like that. Yeah. So it's making sure that there is space to do that. The new guidance really that's driving the change is this passive house standard for indoor pools now, which again is the target of 25 to 40 watts per cubic metre of circulation. So PWTAG have got a net zero carbon design for pools, and they offer 18 design measures that we should consider for sustainable systems. And really this drive to net zero, I don't think pools themselves will ever be net zero, but they need to contribute. They need to make the contribution, don't they, to this world? And to do that, we can no longer ignore, if you like, these life cycle costs and energy costs, really.
No, and on the practical side of that, as me and you do, with the tutoring and what have you, we're constantly saying that swimming pools are by far and away one of the biggest users of energy out of all buildings. So we're generating it. Do you know what I mean? We're generating all that energy and we're wasting it.
Yeah, we're wasting a lot, obviously. So, Debbin are quite specialist in this field, really, and they offer early stage modelling for clients to test and estimate their energy use as well. And I think that's something that obviously more companies will offer, more consultants will offer down the road as well.
Yeah.
So it's making sure the plant room, the design, the pipe work design, everything is going hand in hand, really.
Yeah.
So, they also looked at circulation rates based on bather load and pool usage, not just oversizing pumps for safety margin, because a lot of people, a lot of engineers in the past might have won contracts to construct pools, and it was always a bit of a habit that the contractor would oversize the pumps a bit to make sure he could meet the spec, What they ended up doing is actually having pumps that were way oversized and having to throttle them back or use some other inefficient method of controlling the flow.
I can cut your turnover from 3 hours down to 1.5 here.
Yeah. And the things like like you say, using VSDs to control pumps, and it's interesting because using a VSD, even if you don't turn down the circulation rate, just using a VSD controller will help to clean up the power supply to the pump and make the pump more efficient anyway. So you could probably save about 5% energy just by putting a VSD on your power supply to the pump.
Yeah.
Simple things like that. Yeah, one of the other points was that traditional guidance in the PWTAG book for pipe velocities and things like that when you're designing plant. So it used to be around about 2 to 2.5 meters per second for water going back to the pool, but Passive House aims for 1 to 1.3 meters per second. So it's almost cutting it in half.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference to the friction losses in the pipe.
Yeah.
So, okay, you need to invest in larger pipe work, and there is a cost to that. But obviously the savings that are made from that last for the lifetime of the pool.
Yeah.
And you think how much less pressure that puts on your circulation pumps.
Yeah.
So there is that to consider. Pump and motor selection, they also mentioned that, using highest efficiency pumps, perhaps IE3 to even IE5 standard pumps now making an appearance on the market. And they can give you, a 7 to 10% energy saving. And quite often, a lot of the time, the super efficient pumps now could give you a sort of 2 year, around about a 2 year payback.
Yeah, yeah.
And so certainly worth considering. So they've got, some passive house pools now, systems that are now delivering at 25 watts per cubic meter, and that makes for really large energy savings for the lifetime of that pool. So
it's all really interesting stuff, this, for me, because the energy prices, as we know, they're not coming down, are they? Nothing's really coming down. Everything's going up. So if we're paying more for energy, we need to be looking at plant and machinery that can use less.
Yeah, it's worth the extra investment.
And more efficiently, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So it's worth the extra investment because the cost of energy now is just so huge.
Yeah,
especially for pools.
And the long term as well is good, isn't it? If you can invest in that early on, the long term payment is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And then leading on from that, Martyn Wood of Pool Century, he presented a paper on revisiting the basis for calculating bather loads for pools. So it's, in a way, it's related to some extent because we want to try and, again, give pool operators the opportunity to try and save money, save energy, perhaps if the pool is under-occupied at times. And if we look at what the Germans do, in their DIN standard, they specify that they need to treat 1.7 cubic meters of water for every bather that enters the pool. They don't sort of specify exact turnover times, for pools like 90 minutes or 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's based on the bather load. And it looks like PWTAG are possibly going to adopt this method for the new book for 2026, 27. So we will be calculating the plant capacity based on the bather load multiplied by 1.7.
Yeah.
So I suppose that gives operators an opportunity to perhaps turn down the circulation speed a little bit, when the pool's under-occupied.
Yeah.
And, of course, turning down the circulation speed as well often helps to improve the filtration quality. So if your pool's not being hammered by high bather loads, it's a chance to slow it down a little bit and get better filter efficiency.
Yeah. Well, it's all about recouping, isn't it? It's giving it that opportunity to recoup as well.
Recuperate.
Yeah.
That's right. It's like when the pool's busy, yes, you need a high turnover rate because you need to
get it back to the plant room as quickly as you can, don't you?
You
need it to be heated, you need it to be treated, you need everything, the filtration, the flocculate, everything needs to be done as quickly as possible.
That's right, and we've got to be able to project chlorine down that pool really quickly.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason. But obviously, if you've only got a dozen people in your pool, in your 25-meter pool, then it's not so much a big deal. You can afford to perhaps turn down a little bit. So really, he was talking about that, and that we're probably going to look at adopting the approach that the Germans take. So where does this 1.7 meters figure come from? So basically, it's come from research over the years, and that's an experience. And we know that if we keep to that rule, it keeps the turbidity of the pool below 0.5 NTUs, which is the clarity of the water and the amount of suspended material in the water. We want to make sure that the clarity of the water is good. So if we use the 1.7 cubic meters per bay, the rule for treating the water, usually you can achieve that 0.5 NTUs. Now, 0.5 NTUs, if you look through a pool, the length of a pool, it's not particularly great clarity.
No.
It's acceptable.
Yeah.
But if you're using good flocculation, filtration, treatment, then you should be able to get much better than 0.5. So they're using that as a worst case scenario. And for example, teaching learner pools with a 30-minute high intensity sessions can safely operate for several hours under that same 1.7 cubic meter per bather rule, provided hygiene and filtration are good.
Yeah.
So that's what they're saying. They highlighted a few extra things like extra risk reduction measures, talking about better pre-swim hygiene. That's always a challenge, especially for small pools, isn't it? Where, shower provision is not always ideal, is it?
Well, non-existent in some places.
Yeah. So that's it. You're on the back foot already if you can't encourage your bathers to take a pre-swim shower. Yeah.
I mean, that goes back to what we talk about as tutors. we go on about the solution to pollution is dilution. We go the be all and end all is the cleaner they are going in, the less the less chemical you're going to use. That's just a simple fact.
Yeah, it is. So all in all, summing up from that, really, they were just saying that by using that new figure, you've got to keep in your mind that if you can get a 20% reduction in the speed of your circulation, then your circulation pump, then you can cut energy burn about 50%. So that's quite substantial.
So are we based on all this then, Andy? Are we working to a point whereby we'll do away with turnover rates?
I think, or time, isn't it?
Yeah.
It looks like they might modify time. I'm not sure what it's going to look like for hydrotherapy or spa pools, because obviously they need to be quick, don't they?
And we got interactive water features as well.
And we've got interactive water features, yeah. So it remains to be seen. But maybe just for ordinary swimming pools, maybe ordinary lap pools, then this might be the way forward, and it just might open up a few windows of opportunity to save some extra money instead of just having your pump blasting away all day when the pool's under occupied. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what comes out in the book next year. So like I say, these presentations are on the PWTAG website. We'll put a link in the description of the video to for people to access that. Of course, the Pool Operators Club is here as well for pool operators of all kinds, to get advice on their particular pools and challenges.
Yeah.
So,
and in particular, what you mentioned before, it's getting people like ourselves. We're not pushing and pushing and pushing, but at the end of the day, it's a proven fact that you need these kind of pool consultants in there at the beginning of your projects, be they refurbishments, new builds, or whatever you, in order to give you some advice and spec out, the plant and machinery that you're going to put in there. Yeah,
definitely. And like you say, sometimes just having a quick conversation early on with and running your ideas past a pool consultant.
And how many times over the years have we had conversations with people and they totally overlook the size of the plant room?
Yeah. And then you live with the big regrets.
And then you live with the big regrets, because at the end of the day, you were going on about it before, people coming in and value for money and all this kind of stuff. And they're going to look at the space and say, well, yeah, we might have got that spec of filter, but we can't fit them in here. So it's going to prove cheaper for you to have that lower standard of pump, that lower standard of filter, and then operationally, within a few months, you got problems.
Yeah, your costs are through the roof.
Yeah, your costs are through the roof, and your pool can't handle the amount of bathers that are going in it.
Yeah. And yet you're under pressure to have more bathers because you've got to pay your costs.
Correct.
So
you
end up on a vicious circle. So,
that's right,
yeah. So I hope some of that was useful to people out there. And if you want to find a bit more out about the Pool Operators Club, then you can subscribe to our newsletters and keep in touch just by going to www.pooloperatorsclub.com. And me and Martyn will see you on the next video pretty soon.
Yeah, thanks very much,
Cheers,
Andy.
Martyn.
Good update.
Nice one. All the best.
Mate.